Over 3 years after he last took a professional victory, Mark Cavendish has just won 3 stages in 3 days over at the Tour of Turkey. Now, I know many of you have been enjoying our coverage live and on demand over on GCN+, but we thought we'd take a deeper dive into those 3 wins, mainly because they're very interesting, partly because we've got a funky new touchscreen TV, which I really need to get to grips with. So let's start then with stage 2, which was actually a carbon copy in terms of the run into stage 1, which had to be altered due to snow in the original location. Currently, we can see 500 metres to go, just here, still getting to grips with it. They've just done the last left-hand corner, and it's pretty straight from here towards the finish. I'll mark the key riders: Jasper Philipsen, the main sprinter from Alpecin-Fenix, Andre Greipel, the veteran sprinter from the Israel startup nation, and then Mark Cavendish of Deceuninck Quickstep, currently 5th in this line in the last 500 metres of the race. I'll roll it on now though, because the key moment for me comes in a few seconds' time on this slow motion overhead shot. Right, Philipsen then now is down to just one lead-out rider who's got to get him another 300 metres up the road. Ideally, as a sprinter, you don't want to kick until 200 metres to go. One of the keys, though, to this race for me and this stage is this point here. Let me mark Rick Zabel, who's the final lead-out man for Andre Greipel. He knows that he needs to bring his sprinter up alongside, or onto the wheel, should I say, of Jasper Philipsen to give him the best possible chance of the victory. That is exactly what he does at this moment. But you will see that when he goes, Jasper Philipsen, just here, there is already a small gap between him and Andre Greipel. It's very small, but if I roll it on a bit further, after that snap of Jasper Philipsen towards the finish line, that gap becomes a lot bigger, probably 1.5, maybe even 2 bike lengths at this point. That leaves Mark Cavendish just here with quite a big decision to make. Does he go around Andre Greipel straight away because he fears that Jasper Philipsen is going to run off with the victory here, or does he use the German and his slipstream as long as possible and hope that he can bring him closer to the Belgian? In the end, it's the second of those options that he goes for. Here you can see Greipel is beginning to close down on the Belgian there at the front. And when Cavendish senses that Greipel is beginning to lose his speed, only now, with I think about 125 metres to go, does he hit the wind himself on the right-hand side. Doesn't stay there though. If I roll it on, he initially goes to the right, then goes back into the slipstream of Jasper Philipsen for just a fleeting second, remember this is in slow motion, before going to the left, and then he's carrying just enough speed and momentum to get past the Belgian before the line to take that first win in 3 years. And rather delighted he was with it too, understandably. Right, let's flick on to the following stage, which was stage 3. This, I think, the simplest of all of them. If I mark the sprinters again, Andre Greipel, his lead-out man has just done his job. Here, for Alpecin-Fenix, is Philipsen, and here is Mark Cavendish. And when I roll this on in a minute, you'll see that they're all starting their sprints, except perhaps for Jasper Philipsen. If I mark him here with the magnifying glass, you'll notice I roll it on that he gets slightly balked by Rick Zabel of the Israel startup nation, just here. That just scrubs probably 1 or 2 kilometres per hour from the speed of Philipsen, and I think that has a big bearing on the overall outcome of stage 3. I'll take the magnifying glass off now. You can see Cavendish has been in the wind for a little while now, but again, he's got enough power, enough speed, he's aero enough to be able to continue this all the way to the line. 2 wins from 2. There you can see that Jasper Philipsen almost comes up alongside him, but it's far too late for the Belgian. Right, on to stage 4, so the third of Cav's wins, and I think this was the most complicated of all of them. I'll just put a circle around him now. Now he's in just the position that he wants to be in at this particular point because he's on the wheel of Jasper Philipsen. He knows from Schelder Praise the week before, and indeed from the previous 2 stages, that this is his closest competitor when it comes to the sprint. However, if I move it on, you will see that he kind of gets pushed off the wheel just a little bit by the rider just in front of him. It happens just here. But this is a really important part because Cavendish, he's been in this position 100 times before over the last decade. He doesn't panic, and actually if I roll it on now, you'll see that he even freewheels ever so slightly, just takes in a bit more energy, takes in a deep breath and gets himself ready for what's to come. Now the other key to this stage, if I take this magnifying glass off, is Obviously Jasper Philipsen. Now he's got one rider doing a lead out, 2 riders in front of him, and he's also got one rider from De Koning Quickstep here. Now it's his decision as to when he wants to kick out, and he actually goes pretty early. He looks over his shoulder once, looks over his shoulder again, and then this is where he decides to kick. Jasper Philipsen in the green jersey, which he's wearing on behalf of Mark Cavendish. However, very soon after he kicks, just here, sat back down again. I think he's realised it's too far to go before the finish line and he's not going to be able to carry enough speed all the way there. So he sits back down momentarily in the saddle. He's scanning over his right shoulder to see who's going to launch their sprint behind him. Look round his shoulder again. This is the point where he goes for a second time, and Mark Cavendish has already launched his sprint into the win. However, this is where I think Jakobsen makes a Philipsen, should I say, makes a bit of a mistake. So he moves over to the right-hand side of the road. If I roll this on a bit further, what that means is that Mark Cavendish is now directly in the slipstream, the most advantageous position for him to be in the sprint. That allows him to close in as he's making his final sprint towards the line. Just take a few moments on the wheel before kicking round on the left-hand side of the road, and once again, he's just got enough power and speed to get past the Belgian before they cross the line. 3 wins from 3, as he's showing you in his victory celebration there. Now there are people out there who will claim that the Tour of Turkey is not the biggest race in the world. And they would be right. However, Philipsen has finished second to Cavendish on all 3 of those stages. As I said, he's already won the Schelde Prijs last week in front of Sam Bennett, I should say, and Mark Cavendish. He also won a stage in a bunch sprint of the Vuelta a España late last year in front of Pascal Ackermann. So he's pretty good and pretty fast, to say the very least. And I think that the confidence that Mark Cavendish will take from these 3 wins, and however many more he has over the next few days at this race, will mean that he's extremely determined, more so than ever in training, and that bigger wins could be on the horizon. And even if they're not, at least we've seen Mark Cavendish get back to his winning ways and not retire, as he looked like he could do at the end of last season after 3 years very much below par. Right, I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, let me know in the comments down below, and I might do a few more of these in the not too distant future. Don't forget, over on GCN Plus, we have live and on-demand coverage of the Tour of Turkey right through to Sunday, and there are no territory restrictions, all GCN Plus territories basically. The Vuelta Valenciana started yesterday on Wednesday, and that will continue through Sunday as well. And on Sunday, we have both the men's and the women's Amstel Gold races, not to be missed. However, there are a few more territory restrictions that apply to those ones, so check what is available in your own particular country. Right, that's all from me for now. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon.